everybody, and welcome to the Daily Deal. The Steam Summer Sales are currently going on. This is day 2 of the deals, which went live just a little while ago. What do you think is the selection today, Matt? I'm kind of looking at it.
It's not bad. I haven't played all of them. I played a little bit Just Cause 2, Call of Duty.
Black Ops 2,
I beat the
Blocks
story
2.
of Call of Duty. Yeah, like that's one of those games I rent. It's not one of the games I really buy much. Not to be a hater or anything.
You play COD for the story and just don't do the multiplayer at all?
Because I don't want to spend $60 on a paper shooter. I feel like I'm shooting other people with paper.
Wow, okay. Well, no,
the bullets just go right through them and they fall over.
That's just interesting to me because most people completely ignore the campaign and then I guess I'm a little bit like that with the more recent Halo titles. I just play through the campaign and then put it down, even though they're becoming more and more multiplayer focused. But yeah, okay, so you got Blops 2 for 50% off. There's a host of other games. You got Sniper 2. Have you ever played Ghost Warrior?
I played a little bit of Sniper. I don't know if was it Sniper 2? Is Sniper 2 an old game?
I don't think. Well, not particularly.
I think I played the first one, and actually it had some cool ideas with the slow-mo, but it's nothing new really. It's a shooter.
Okay.
Really.
Well, in particular, guys, I would say we're going to be looking at The Walking Dead for today, but Faster Than Light is a crazy, addictive, very awesome game from everything I've heard, and it's incredibly cheap today, 75% off. That's one you should probably have your eye on. And Fez 2, right, which we've actually covered on the Daily Deal.
Yes, we have.
Oh, no, we did like a pilot episode of the Daily Deal that nobody's ever seen.
Oh, that's right. I didn't even remember that until we started recording. Yeah, no one will ever see that.
No one's seen that. Okay, well, anyway, Fez, basically, a very interesting game, very cool game. I've heard some crazy stuff about it as well. It's one of those games you complete it thinking you've just done one thing, and then the second time through, you notice like a ton of other stuff that just makes it really replayable and interesting. But anyway, those are generally the titles. They'll be scrolling along in the banner throughout the episode. We're looking at The Walking Dead.
Right.
This is a game that was released, basically, it was originally due for 2011, but it released over 2012. It's very hard to pin down what genre this game is, so I'm going to go with the wiki definition for now, which is an episodic graphic adventure. Okay, and what do we mean by that? Do you want to try and describe to people how this game plays? For the record as well, before we come into this is one of my favourite video games of all time, and we've both played it. All right,
yeah, he got me to play it, and I gotta say, I can see why he loves it so much. It's like an interactive story, right? Yeah. It's not it's not necessarily a game necessarily. There is gameplay, and you get to like fight, and there's certain shooting segments and stuff like that. But it's really you're making choices for your characters, and with the choices that you make, it drastically changes the story. But yeah, I guess
the way I describe it is you're playing a TV show, and that might sound negative to some people, but I think there are enough core gameplay elements to this that really make it come into its own as an actual interactive experience. One of the biggest things about, if you guys are into The Walking Dead at all, basically there's this comic series that were being written and made by this guy called Robert Kirkman, that recently they basically had like a TV show came out of it, which is sort of a different universe almost, but based on the same kind of thing. And now this game came out as well that was being released very much like a TV show, in that you'd kind of get a couple of hours of gameplay in the form of an episode, and then you'd wait like a month or 2 months, I think, and then they'd release the next episode and then the next, and after like a certain number of episodes, I think it was 4, the season was sort of declared complete. And it really mimics that whole TV show feel very well. A big thing about the Walking Dead universe, I don't know whether you feel, because you've watched the TV show too, right? You're quite into it, yeah. A big thing I've always felt with watching that as a TV show, and I'm sure with the comics too, is these characters are always having to make these really big decisions that raise a lot of questions for morals and ethics and stuff. And when you're watching it on the screen or you're reading it on the page in the comics, you get to see what decisions these people make and the consequences that come of it. The thing that really makes the game shine is it puts all of those decisions in your hands. Do you save this guy or this guy? And what do you base your decision on? Just cold, raw logic, this dude's got a gun, this dude doesn't. Or, hey, I like this person more. Or, I'm going to let this really old person die because basically they're going to slow us down as a group anyway. And it puts those decisions into your hands, right? And that's something very compelling, I feel, about this game.
The choices that you make in the beginning actually kind of wraps up in the end, as you can say, not to spoil too much, but you do end up in the same place kind of regardless a little bit.
definitely. It's one of those games where you make decisions and it has sort of minor variations on the story as you go along, sometimes quite large variations, but the general plot of the game is going to be the same regardless. It's one of those things, like, I played it and made my decisions and kind of lived with them. You know, as you play, I feel like you have these really strong temptations after you make a decision. You're like, no, I didn't want to do that, and then you like try and reload. The game makes it kind of hard to do that. You did that as well, right?
Yeah, I did it a couple of times. That's one of the things that's like, it's not necessarily a negative, right? Because we were talking about this before when I was playing it, and because you told me to play it. Sometimes there's a very quick decisions, right, that you have to make, right?
Yes.
The timer just goes down really quick, and you would have to like think on your feet and see which one. Sometimes it's not much time to really read every question that you have to answer. So sometimes you end up picking something that you don't want to say. And, you know, it kind of simulates what happens in real life. You know, sometimes you don't really have like 20 minutes to think of what's going to happen if you say this to a person, right, in real life. So it simulates that, but it does give you the cringe. It's like, okay, let me go back. And sometimes you have to, if you want to go back, the autosave goes way back, and you have to replay like 30 minutes.
If you make a bad decision because it was spur of the moment and you didn't quite understand what you were saying, or you didn't really have time to think of all the consequences, if you do want to go back, which in my opinion does ruin the game, if you keep like reloading just because you want to make different decisions, it will throw you way back. And that's something, I guess, a negative we should really, because we're not negative enough on these.
Yeah.
One negative about this game, like, is it's pretty clunky with the way the saves work. Did you have any issues with your saving when you were playing?
When I would make a decision, I'm like, hold up, that's not what I wanted to say. Like, either I'll press the wrong button or something like that. Like, sometimes you're reading something and you kind of press X when you wanted to press Y, right? And I wanted to go, I was like, no, I don't want to say, I want to be mean to this guy. And there, you know, the daunting thing of, oh, he will remember that. It's like, oh, no, because this is what happens. You say certain stuff to certain people, and there will be an indicator on the top left-hand corner that will say, oh, he will remember that you said that, or, you know, he noticed that you were worried about him, or something like that, right? Some of them are good, some of them are bad. And you want to restart if you make a mistake like that, especially if it's something that you didn't mean to pick. So when I would restart, the autosave would be like all the way back. All the way back, and it would be such an issue. But, I mean, it's not too bad.
For me, another issue I had as well, like kind of just a raw buggy issue with the game, was I first played it. I played episode 1, which was a fair few hours, and I was like, this is amazing. Went to bed, woke up the next day. Started on episode 2, and I marathoned episode 2 right through till nearly the end of episode 4. And after that, I was like, okay, all right, I should probably stop now. This is a few months ago. I should probably stop now. And when I came back after that, it hadn't saved any of my progress on that second day. Like, that save file, there'd just been a bug, and it had messed up. And that's a well-known issue with the PC version of the game. And essentially, I had to replay just like the bulk of the game, which was really annoying, and especially in those situations, because such a large theme of this game is every decision you have to make, you're on a time limit. They don't give you a million years to make your decisions. And I was playing back through, and I kind of knew how it was all going to play out. It was really difficult to resist that temptation of just saying all the different stuff and saying the things that I know that the characters will like. But there's a big part. Do you remember what happens at the start of episode 2 with the food? I think that's probably a good example we can give to people.
Oh, you mean when you have to pick to take the food or not?
No. That's the end of episode 2. Basically, at the start of episode 2, you've got like 5 pieces of food, and there's like 9 characters that you need to feed.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And you have to make the choices of which pieces of food to give to each person. You know, you get like what, like 4, like 2 candy bars and an apple and something else.
Yeah, but you got a really little amount of food, and you need to give it to all these characters. The first time you're playing through the game, it's tracking everything you're doing. You have no idea how what you choose is going to influence the future. The game will keep reminding you, as Matt said, it will give you this message, oh, blah, 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 we'll remember that. And it's really nerve-wracking. It's really tense. You're like, oh my god, who do I give this food to? So I had this really kind of compelling, interesting experience the first time I played, where I was really careful about who who I gave the food to. And then the second time, I knew kind of who was annoyed about it, or who wouldn't accept food, or who wouldn't do this, or who wouldn't do that. And it really took a lot away. So, very much, if you guys are going to play this game, I would recommend you just like try and honor your original decisions, and hopefully you won't get like that weird save bug that I had, because that was really annoying, basically.
What do you think about replayability for this game? Like, after beating it and after like all the episodes, I actually kind of urge, since I want to see what happens if I choose to save this person and save that person, or what would happen if I did this properly. It kind of makes me wonder, and that kind of makes me want to play through it one more time. But I don't know how many people would feel that tied to the story to actually play this again.
I definitely think, compared to most games, and in particular compared to games that are so story focused, that are so much about the narrative, this game has incredibly high replayability. But also at the same time, I think, as I said earlier, I think it would be a little bit disappointing to people to make all these wildly different decisions and then find out that really everything comes to the same point anyway. You know, there's going to be a lot of times, this isn't a spoiler, but there's going to be a lot of times where you're making decisions on whether somebody dies or not. And for me, I could kind of tell as I was playing through the game the first time, as much as I love this game, and honestly it's on like one of my top 10 lists for games I've ever played, I did notice as I was playing through the game, I was like, right, well, I've got this choice, basically, is this character going to die or not? And I was always feeling like, okay, if I let them live, they're probably going to die later anyway, because frankly, the story all has to go to the same point, right? So if they don't die now, they're going to die later. And I always had that feeling, and sometimes I was right about it, and sometimes I was wrong about it. But you do begin to pick up on those patterns, right? And that does have a bit of an effect on the way I was making decisions as I played through. I don't know, because you were playing it with your wife, right? What was it like from that kind of perspective? Because I don't think many people will talk about that with this game. Like, to play it with two people. Did it affect them?
Oh, man. Yeah, because, like, we have different views on certain situations. Like, especially with Clementine, we had a problem with that. Like, oh, what? Should I tell her the truth? So I was always one to, like, no, I'm telling her hardcore. She's going to get raw from me. And then, like, my wife would be like, no, you got to sugarcoat it. I'm like, no. And she's a teacher, too. So she's like, got to sugarcoat it with this. I'm like, no, you're not treating our child like that. And then before you know it, the decision is over. You know, it's just like, oh, dang, you know, what did we pick? You know, and then so we had to be quick. So we learned that early on. We definitely had to be quick with that. And you know what was cool also with the decisions that you make? After every episode, you actually see the statistics of who chose what.
Yeah, right, yeah.
That was amazing. I thought that was, like, they didn't have to do that, but they did that, and I thought that was, like, probably one of the best things at the end of the episodes.
I always felt bad when I made a decision, and then the episode ends, and it gives me all of the choices. And I find out everyone else has made the same thing. I'm like such a hipster. I'm like, oh man, I wish I'd taken the other thing. Everybody saved the hot reporter girl with the gun. Oh my god, it's so annoying.
Yeah, I did it, and I like 23% saved like the guy instead of the hot reporter, and I'm like, oh, I guess I'm part of the 23%. I wonder how many. I'm pretty sure a lot of people played this too.
I did find it's very interesting that they put those in, because you know it doesn't really tie into the story that much, but it's really cool. And I did find as I played through more and more episodes, my decisions were drastically changing. Like, it's very hard for us to talk about a lot of the stuff that comes up, because I feel like, you know, you spoil a little bit of this game, you've ruined a lot of the experience. But a lot of the decisions you make later, I was beginning to make like these wildly different things that other people just weren't. And I don't know, I quite enjoyed that. I wasn't doing it necessarily to be different, but it's cool to kind of just see how you compare to everyone else. We should explain as well, okay, the main driving force of the story, we keep talking about the story, the main point of this is zombie apocalypse, right? It's based in the same universe that the comics originally were based in. It has the same kind of tones and themes. However, it's a completely different cast of characters. There is a crossover, 2 crossovers from the TV show early on in this episode that you guys are watching right now, but mostly it's a different group of survivors in the same general region of Earth during the same zombie apocalypse. And primarily, you play as this guy, Lee Everett, okay? He's a very interesting character. Originally, he was in that police car. You find out right at the start of the game, he's a convicted murderer. As to his innocence or his guilt, you find that out as you go along with the game. But the large thing is, right, Clementine. You mentioned her just now. Do you want to explain what Clementine is, basically, to everyone?
She's basically the other main character. So you decide really like what she becomes of, is she like very important to you? Do you treat her, a certain way? She's basically the other main character, and the choices that you make throughout the game affect her throughout the whole story, and really,
yes,
at the end, it really matters. That's all I'm gonna say. So, it's amazing. I'm trying not to spoil too much.
Okay,
trying not to spoil too much. And well, also like in this story, there's everyone, like the people that you're gonna hate. There's some people that you're gonna love. It has a different variety of characters, so you can kind of attach and befriend this person because you agree with how this person goes, or you can disagree, halfway agree, and halfway disagree with some people. Like it's choices. There's gonna be arguments that you got to choose sides all the time. It's crazy.
That's the whole thing. Like as I was saying at the start, the TV show and the comics, they show you these characters having to make these difficult decisions. While you're playing this game, that's you making them, and you get so heavily emotionally invested. I was genuinely affected by this game for days and days after I finished playing it. Even upwards of weeks. I was so affected by it. The soundtrack on it, right? They've got this particular track. Okay, I've got it's a private playlist, but I've got a playlist on YouTube of all my favorite video game music, right? And there's a track on this game. It's like one of the sad tracks that they play that just it conjures up so many memories of like all the worst and at the same time best moments of this game all at once. And as I was playing this just now to get this footage, it played a little bit in the background. I was like, oh my god, this song. Like, you will get so heavily invested in this. I've never had a game that has had me so gripped by the characters and cared so much for the characters, while at the same time, I've got to be honest, you look, especially at the start of episode 1, it's kind of a bit clunky. It's the art style they've gone for, I think, really helps them out a lot. But if you notice how sometimes, you get all these decisions of things to say in the conversations, but you'll say it and then the other character's response is like a little bit late, or it doesn't seem to make perfect sense, or the animation bugs out and clips a little. Did you notice a lot of that?
Right. I remember no matter what I said to the person, he kind of said the same thing, but that's only for like a little sometimes of the minor characters, maybe like they were just there for a second. Sometimes that would happen. I could see that a little bit, and it was okay. It didn't bring you out the experience too much, and it was only like few and far between. So
it's one of those things. It's like you notice the clunkiness, I think, at the start of it as you're getting used to the way that the game tells its story and the way the gameplay works, because it is quite unique. You don't find many games like this. You notice the clunkiness at first, but it's sort of like wearing glasses and you've got like a floater or something in your eye or something, and you notice it for a little while, but then after a while you get so wrapped up in the other stuff, it sort of recedes away a bit. That's what I'd say. And then you're more focused on desperately trying to survive against like this zombie lady, for example, and all that kind of stuff. That's really how the game manages to come into an element of its own. Despite like at the start, there's these weird aesthetic discrepancies. And for the price that is going currently on Steam, like this is why I really wanted to cover this one. I think you were automatically as well. You were like, boom, we have to do this game.
Yeah, it's put it directly on Skype. I was like, oh, Walking Dead. Yep, definitely. It's safe to say before we wrap this up, the ending we were so emotionally driven by these characters that there was not just the ending, but points like the episodes.
Okay, we're both fully grown ass men, and we've both admitted to crying. I blubbered at several points on this game. Okay, it will grab you. It really will.
This is the only game to do that to me. Like I've cried on some games, but this like made me like actually like little whimper a little bit. Like, I had to clear my throat. I was like. Wow.
Yeah, and that's we were a little bit worried about saying something like that. It's not much of a spoiler. The game, as you progress, you'll see that it's a very complicated narrative with a lot of different characters, a lot of different ways that things can go. Genuinely, though, it's just a fascinating game. It's a really good experience. I wholeheartedly recommend it. I think you do too.
Yes.
And it's got its negatives, but this is definitely my pick for if you haven't played it yet, this is my pick for the Steam Summer Sale. Again, like another overwhelmingly positive daily deal, but there you go. I guess we'll just wrap it there then, and we will see you next time. Yeah, guys.
Yep. See ya.
Oh man.
It's always terrible. Like,
I turned it into a question there. I was like, I'll see you later, maybe. Oh, I don't know.
Oh gosh, gotta love it.